Welcome everyone to another edition of Beth Bell Live. Welcome to the channel. I so love having you here each week. And if you're new to the channel, we get to the heart of the matter on everything having to do with relationships. So if you're tuning in live, I would love to have you write in the comments a question that you may have. Could be about romantic relationships, could be about family, could be about toxic friendships or great friendships that you're just a little bit on the bumps with or have some inquiries on, or it could be something at work. So that's where we learn everything, is through our relationships with others. They are the mirror for us. And so we get to the heart of the matter. And in fact, if you haven't already taken the State of the Heart assessment, I think you'd find it very fun and interesting, because there's several questions that'll get you into, like, where is my heart really? Is it blocked? Is it broken? Is it healing? Is it whole? And the 5 steps to actually help heal your heart back to wholeness, because we never know when heartbreak happens. It's out of the blue a lot of times. People break our hearts. We have heartache. Things happen. It's called life. And sometimes we have to dig deep into the depths of whatever that sadness is that it brings and get the lesson. And sometimes we can get ourselves back to that blissfully neutral state because we're using our toolbox, our spiritual toolbox, to help us really move through the lessons. We don't have to learn them over and over and over again, or at least get them so that we can learn them. So welcome. I'm so happy you're here. Please, again, in the questions, if you're here with me live, I'd love to hear anything that might be on your heart, on your mind. And as always, I have pre-submitted questions. And today I actually don't have a live studio audience, but yeah, I have my family in town, which is really fun. And they're out exploring the beautiful beach. And so, yeah, we're here together live, and I'm so excited that you're here. So let's jump in and get started with the pre-submitted questions, and then I'm happy to answer any that come in live. All right. Question number 1. I hear a lot about manifestation and the law of attraction, but when I'm in a low place emotionally, it feels impossible to shift my energy. What's your best advice for making that leap? I think right now this question is so pertinent, even for the most enlightened people out there. I know if you're watching this channel, you've been deeply on your journey, chances are, and you've done a lot of the work. And when we do get to those low places, it can be really hard. I know myself, I feel like I've been on this roller coaster now, especially over the last several months, where the dips like really come in and they really hit us hard. Now, what's coming around this is to shift your state. A lot of times we just have to shift our brain chemistry. We have to shift our body. We have to shift things within us, like the simple things. Excuse me, because I'm still struggling with this little bit of a cold. So apologies for my hacking as I go along, but it's almost done. I am taking oil of oregano. Okay, so what's coming is really to shift the state with emotional chemistry, physical chemistry, and doing, if it's possible, doing something that's safe, but that really gets your fight or flight in. Okay, there's going to be a couple ways I'm going to answer this, because if you're already in fight or flight and you're like, really stressed out, then this might not be the right way. But if you're not, and you're just feeling that really like more depressed state, where you're just, feeling like your energy is really, really low, I would suggest going to do something that really jolts you. Now, I know not everyone can go bungee jumping or something like that, but that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. It's the thing that just, maybe you go on a ride. I know just recently when I was in Mexico, I went on a ride, and actually I went because I wanted to have fun, but I was also like, you know what? I just want to see like where my physical chemistry goes with this, because it's going to create fear. It was like an upside down, all around kind of thing. And I just wanted to feel like, what is it like to be in my body? So sometimes, and I don't mean like literally inducing fear, like something that you actually need to be fearful of, like there's a lion in front of you. I don't mean that. But I mean something that can jolt that chemistry within you, that can just get you moving in a different direction. Now, I think that this is not something that we can force, or it often just happens. One of the biggest shifters is love, is romantic chemistry. And again, that's not something we can necessarily go out and make happen. But if you are in a romantic relationship, I think that there may be some techniques there that you can use to help you leverage that great feeling of oneness in romance and bring it through to boost your happy hormones, to boost your oxytocin levels, to boost those chemicals within you, those natural chemicals within you that can help you be happier and help you really shift the state. And along with that, because sometimes, like I said, we can't always like go out and like make romance happen. It might be that you call a friend and you do something that you haven't done before. Maybe it's something like a static dance where you're actually shaking and moving your body. You're getting your energy moving. You're moving the Kundalini. Maybe it's Kundalini yoga, where you're actually going and you're intentionally wanting to bring that energy through. Maybe it's something softer, like you're sitting in meditation and you're wanting to open your chakras and you're starting with your root chakra and you're deeply embedded there and bringing all the earth energy, the core of the earth coming up through you and connecting to the celestial realms through the terrestrial. Anything you can do to get yourself back in your body and out of that mind that causes us so much chaos and such a mind mess at times is really where you're going to find that shift. Now, I want to be more specific because I know what you're talking about with the manifestation of the law of attraction. A lot of times that can get really frustrating because you know how to do it, but it's just not happening. And that, again, has to go back to that emotional, chemical space. Now, there's times when it's just not the right time. So if you feel like you're overly forcing something, like, yes, you're going to have to make a step. And yes, you're going to have to maybe do something uncomfortable, like go do something that you don't normally do. But it's not a forceful thing. It's not a forcing it, because then we're just pushing the energy in a direction that's not as helpful. So the manifestation part really is embodying the feeling and the emotion of what it is that you would feel if you already had it. And you know that. I know you know that. So emotionally, if you're in that low place, do something that jolts you. Get with someone. Go hug a stranger if it's right. I'm not saying, you have to use your discernment. Do something. Help someone on the street. Do something that is in gratitude. Do something that is paying it forward. And that helps to also take the shift off of ourselves and what's happening for ourselves and puts it into the energy of really wanting to help others and really wanting to be in that love space. All right. I'd love to hear your comments. I think we've got a couple coming in here. So yeah, let me know what you think about that. And if you have any tips too that you use, I would love to hear about that. Okay. Let's go on to the next question. Okay. So I have a lover partner who believes in a political figure who I am totally opposed to. Should I just honor her freedom of opinion and simply forget it? Great question. It's a tough time right now. There's a lot of stuff happening out there in the world, and there's a lot of people that have deep-seated beliefs. I would use this as an opportunity to, yes, number one, allow freedom of thought, because that is, I think, like, I'm taking this up to another level, and I'll come back specifically to your question. But if we take it up another level, right now, this time is not about separation, but it is, because everyone is feeling separate. Everyone is trying to find things that they disagree on. Everyone is got their panties in a bunch about things that are really important, but they may not be things that they can actually do anything about on their personal individual level. So why would you give up something that's so wonderful with another person about something that is big and that has a lot of meaning to it, but that isn't going to change anything in your relationship unless you allow it to, unless you allow that to get under your skin and you allow, let me take it another, and I'm just going to keep going here with what's coming. I have a lot of friends and we all have strong beliefs, and I have not disowned or argued with any one of them because I love them so much that I think it's really okay that they have another opinion than mine. Yeah. Do I find myself judging them and going, oh God, if they believe that, like, whoa, what does that mean about them? Yeah, I catch myself thinking that sometimes, but then I have to go deeper into me and really know, what is it that I believe? And at the same time, investigating your own beliefs without judgment of yourself or others. Because that's also the time right now why I see all of this discord happening. And let's say it that it's political, but I'm not here to talk about politics. I'm here to talk about unity. And I'm here to talk about how we can make a difference and how we can be in our hearts, not in our minds. And when we get into these discussions about people and politics, we are in our minds. And I'm not saying that that's bad or wrong. We're human. That's what we came here to do. Intellect is a beautiful thing. And having, debate is like a professional, pastime. It's like not even pastime. What's the right word? Like it's a profession, debate, right? So it's what keeps us young a lot of times, is to have these differing views. If we all believe the same thing, wouldn't life be so boring? Now I get it that this particular political figure, if you're completely opposed, chances are they may be completely opposed with you as well. And maybe sit and think, hey, have I felt like they've really shamed me or blamed me for my beliefs, or have they come after me or tried to change my mind? I think that's where we just get into this really crazy place of trying to change someone else's mind. So yeah, I think you're on it. Honor them, but not simply forget it. That's not approaching this from a conscious place. That's approaching it from I'm going to sweep it under the rug energy is what I'm feeling. And you may not mean that exactly, but it's that we don't forget it because it's emotionally charged for you. Otherwise, you wouldn't ask the question and it wouldn't come through with the words and the energy that's being used here. So it is really important to you. I think use it as an opportunity to understand your lover's insights and how their perspective may be different than yours, but come at it from a way of absolute learning. We are not here to convince anyone of anything. Just like love, we can't convince someone to love us. We can't buy somebody's love. We can't, and I'm taking it into a different realm just to make an example. This isn't specific to you. It's to have an experience in life. And right now, we are being asked to have some pretty intense experiences with what's going on in the world. And so it's always coming back to our peaceful place. Where is my peace? I want to keep my peace within me more than anything. I want to come back to a blissfully neutral state. Yes, we can go to the highs, we can go to the lows, we can have the arguments, we can have the but at the end of the day, we want to be back to love. So I think really just sit with that. Sit with, where does love fit in these conversations? And while that may seem like a completely opposite thing to say, like, why are we talking about that? Why are you going back to love? When I'm asking about politics and about beliefs and ideations, it's because everything is just an illusion here. Like everything is a belief. Everything that we have is a belief. And everybody has a different lens of which their beliefs are grounded in. And so have fun understanding some of the deeper beliefs. Just don't get all tied up in the political figures themselves, because none of us actually know any of these people. And that's also the big scuttlebutt right now, isn't it? That we get our information from the media, whether your media is CNN, Fox News, or a podcast. I always caution that if you're listening to someone else's version, because everyone's got a side, everybody's got their view. And I really like to listen to the person directly. I like to hear the long form of what people have to say, because when I do, I can really form my own opinions and through my own lens. And also I read their energy and I read the vibration. And so when we do that in a long form version, I think we give people the time. Look, I'm guilty too. There's people that I just don't like, and I don't want to listen to their long form of themselves. And that's fine too. So then you don't. And that's where I guess maybe to your comment of, there's not forget it, but that you kind of let it go, that you let it go in a loving way. You let it go with love. If you don't, then it's resentment, then you don't feel heard, then you don't feel like you're able to have that deeper conversation, because that is what is so important in lovers and with family and with anyone that we are close to, or that we have a real deep love for and a respect for. So I think keep that respect first and foremost, because you love that person for a reason. And there is a lot about that person that has nothing to do with this political figure. So just be a little bit more curious. I think that's really the thing. And when you find yourself moving away from the curiosity and into the critic, that's where you have to go ding, 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 ding. Okay, wait, I am not in a neutral state here. I'm not in a place where I can have a conversation that will be conducive to either one of us. So curiosity or critic. And that's where you'll know, is it time to, in this moment, to continue to have the conversation? And sometimes you also have to gauge, like, does the other person feel criticized? Because you may not think that you're being a critic, but if the other person is giving you the signals, whether it's their tonality, whether it's their body language, whether it's what they say, if they're giving you the signals that they feel criticized, then you also may want to just consider softening where you're coming from, or tabling it and just saying, okay, this isn't worth going there right now with this person. Let me just kind of take a deep breath and just feel into it more. And so I think that goes across a lot of different topics. I don't think that it's just a political topic. I think it's when we deeply love someone, we want the agreement and we want the connection and we want everyone to think the same way. And when people don't, whether it's a child or a lover or a sister or a brother, sometimes it gets under our skin. Just don't let it do that, because it's not worth it. It's really not worth it. What's worth it is understanding what your lover or your loved one thinks, and when you can do it in a way that feels conducive to learning and growing together, because you might just learn something. It may not change your mind, but you might learn something. So, all right, thank you for that question. It's very time sensitive for right now. Okay, let's jump into some more questions here, because there's a lot of really good ones, and some of them I couldn't get to last week. Okay. I recognize that my relationship with myself is where everything originates. Basically, how I show up for myself, ... However, I've been feeling lost, ashamed, and stuck in anxiety. What's the first small but powerful shift I can make to start moving forward? I think there's a lot of links from the very first question and this one. So I'm going to try to not repeat myself, but I feel like I'm getting a lot of the similar downloads as to what to do as far as shifting your state. What I would add is that you can also spend time, and I think I've talked about this before, because I've done this myself. Sometimes I'm more active than others, but where I'm writing down, because it's saying show up for myself, feeling lost, ashamed, and stuck, and anxious. Just really write all the things that you accomplished in a day, and get really granular if necessary, because not everybody's moving mountains every day. Not everyone's having a big speech at the UN and feeling like they brought unity to the planet. It might be that you helped someone on the street. It might be that you wrote a chapter in your book. It might be that you spend time journaling about being lost, and that you actually allowed yourself to just be in that space of vulnerability, and then honor the vulnerability is really the point. Honor your emotions, honor where you're at. Lost, ashamed, stuck, anxious, those are all like really sticky things. You can also just go to community events, and I know sometimes that's hard to do when you don't want to be out and social because you're not feeling, come up with one really fabulous thing about yourself. And when someone says, what do you do for a living, or what's lighting you up right now, which seems like a big way that people are a popular way that people are saying, like, what are you doing? Find a phrase that just feels really resonant for you about what you're doing. In fact, what comes to mind is a dear friend of mine. I love her. She said, because this was not her question, but she said to me, when people ask me what I'm doing, I am just perfecting the art of being. And that's beautiful. And sometimes we as a society don't give people really and I don't really like this word, but the kudos for taking the inward journey, for doing this spiritual, soulful work. And I think right now, that's again this time, in humanity is a time when we need to do that deeper soul work. And we do that through relationships. We do that through our heart. Yes, it's entwined with the mind, right? The mind is definitely in here because otherwise we wouldn't have a way to process it. That's part of being human. We're not just working from our heart space or our gut space or, our intuitive space. We're working in a balance of the heart mind energy. And so that's really what we're wanting to do. And so I think it's really just thinking about, what if you're ashamed? What am I proud of? If I'm stuck, what has flowed for me? And it might be that, silly as it sounds, it might be that you got the Rockstar parking space. It doesn't have to always be these big things that we say, oh yeah, everything is flowing. We got to focus on the little things sometimes. And sometimes that's what happens is we get brought back, we get humbled, we get put on our knees to be able to do that deeper inner work. I would call it shadow work in some ways. I don't really like that term sometimes, but it's that deeper work of like bringing the underbelly of like what's deeply embedded within and bringing it forward so we can let it go and be lighter and brighter and move through. I think last week, I feel like maybe there was a similar question, but the analogy of the lotus flower and the mud cane and, really finding a comfortable way to feel into some of this shame, and yet know that the light is always there, right? And the sun is always shining, and to ask for the light and ask to be shown. Because if we're not asking to be shown, and when we ask to be shown, from my perspective, this is about asking your higher self. So you don't have to believe in God, you don't have to believe in anything. You just know that you as a person are here on planet Earth and you're asking, hey, there's an energy, because I know I've experienced myself in very different forms. Bring my higher self, that one that's a higher vibration, the one that has great ideas, the one that feels fulfilled, the one that is already in wholeness, that has never left me, but I'm just not identifying with it. I'm just not in that energetic vibration with right now. That higher self, show me. And then you've got to listen and you have to hear what that is. And I speak about this a lot because I personally find journaling a way to really help me bring things from my mind into my heart. Because when I write a question from my mind, it's like my heart speaks through the pen. And I hear from my higher self the guidance that I need so that I don't feel lost. And sometimes we go for days and days and days and we still feel lost. And sometimes we just have to sit with that like a lotus flower in the mud and know that the sun is rising and setting every day and that there is so much here supporting us, so much we don't see, so much we don't hear, so much we don't feel. And just asking to show me how to feel that more, how to see that more, how to hear that more. That higher vibrational self, not that lower one, the little critic on the shoulder, which is, we joke about it and say like it's, some people say it's your mother or it's your father. And, in so many respects, it's true because they're the ones that did the initial, if you grew up with them in the same household, they did the initial programming. They're the ones that instilled the beliefs and the culture and everything, because they were your everything. They were the ones that took you around to be part of whatever community or moved you multiple times. So I know I digress, but I think it's all really important stuff to really feel into that tender place in your heart and really find the guidance from your higher self, not from the mind, which we are so used to listening to. Okay, let's go on to the next question. And I'm also, I didn't say this at the end of the previous question. If you're still on with me live, I'd love to hear your thoughts. If I was able to answer about the lover partner who believes in political figure, don't be shy. You can always, write a comment. If you want to challenge me, that's fine too. I don't really like the word challenge, but if you want to, throw in that it helped you or that you didn't think it was helpful, I'm okay. All right. Next question. You've had so many inspiring conversations with thought leaders and healers. What's the most profound insight you've gained about overcoming fear and embracing the unknown? Several things are flowing through in the moment right now. One, I'm going to say this, but I look less to thought leaders today because the inner wisdom is within myself. And that's what we're all trying to get back to, is knowing that inner wisdom within. And it's through our life experiences. And of course, I'm always going to say it's through our relationships. And so I wouldn't necessarily say that there's a profound insight that I've gained. And yet there are many insights that have come through, especially early on in my journey, through books, through seminars. And the one that's coming through right now, which is not really an insight, but it's like so strongly, and it sounds silly almost for me to say, but I remember years and years ago, I called him my spiritual healer. He was my teacher in A Course in Miracles, and A Course in Miracles was just such a foundational element for me to help me really understand what unraveling my mind was all about. And I remember he was talking to me about the 70s and about how, LSD and all these drugs. And I was just like, oh my God, that's like, no. And then this book from Ram Dass was, and I think he brought it to me. I'm not 100% sure, but I think he brought it to me. And it was everything I learned on LSD or something like that. Personally, I haven't done LSD, but you may or may not know some of my beliefs on psychedelics and how transformative they can be. But I think what's coming to say is that my judgment back then was so strong about that. And yet I opened the book by Ram Dass and I read all of the things that he was writing and that he had learned while on LSD. And they were profound. I don't remember any specific insights. I might even have his book still in I don't have very many books left, but they were so perfectly aligned with A Course in Miracles. And now fast forward many years later, knowing what I know from my own experiences in spiritual medicines, how unraveling of the mind they can be. I'm not suggesting you go out and do any spiritual medicines. I'm suggesting that you may want to open your mind like I did. And it took me many years to see things differently because I was so ingrained in like how I grew up and what I believed and the narrative of the war on drugs and everything that happened. So again, I'm not a proponent of saying like, go out and do drugs. Absolutely not. I'm just saying, be open to learning new perspectives. And so while I feel like I didn't answer that question exactly, that's what came to me to say. That sometimes the most profound insights just come to us innately from within. And that oftentimes these people outside of ourselves, these influencers, if you want to call them, or healers, they are just there reflecting something to us at times when we're not ready, and then at times when we are ready. And so just keeping your eyes wide open to hearing, because a guy on the street could give you the most profound insight and lesson. So, and I know this person wasn't asking it like from a pedestal kind of place, but I just think it's just such a great opportunity to always go back to encouraging all of us. I do it myself all the time, wanting to just really expand my own inner wisdom so that I can see things beyond my programming and all of the thoughts and beliefs that were instilled in me, especially at a young age, and from previous lives and from my celestial starseed origins as well. So, okay, hopefully that's helpful. If not, I always love to hear your comments, good, bad. Okay, let's go on to the next question here. How do I deepen a friendship I'm in with a local mom who shares similar interests? And we enjoy each other's company when we do get together. Yet she is pretty unavailable. Busy schedule, and when in person, doesn't go past the interests into emotional territory. Even when I share from the heart, she doesn't go there. Okay, what's coming is that she's giving you a clear signal that she doesn't want to go there with you. Now, I know that sounds harsh. It's just that's what's coming, is that she's giving you a very specific signal that she does not want that. Don't force it. And I know your question is how can I open her up? And so what I would say is, did you say that you are vulnerable with her? If you are vulnerable with her and she's not able to shine that back to you, take that as a clear message. It doesn't mean that you close up. It just means that you don't overshare. Don't overshare about things that are vulnerable for you, because that can make people feel even more like they don't want to share with you. Here's another example in a different kind of energy. Sometimes when you're not happy, and I'm not saying this for you, but just in general for the collective, when you're not happy and someone comes in and they're super happy, sometimes it doesn't rub off. Sometimes it becomes an irritant and you're like, oh, if that person could just leave, that would be really helpful. And it's not because you don't like them. It's not personal. It's just that you're not in that space. And I feel that is the possible situation here, where this person is just not wanting to be in that vulnerable space, and that for whatever reason, she doesn't want to be in it with you. So I would just come back to you continuing to be vulnerable, but just a little bit. Don't go on. Listen to yourself speak. When do you kind of keep going? It feels like there's times when you think, oh, if I just keep telling her another thing, and I could be wrong. You can write me and let me know if this is on the mark or not for you, but that you keep going, thinking, if I keep going, she's going to say something. Whereas it's actually shutting her down and shutting her down and shutting her down. And just be there for her is what's coming through. Just be there for her. And I bet you that there will come a time that when she really needs a trusted confidant, she's going to go back and say, yeah, she's going to think about you. And she's possibly going to come to you. And so I guess what's coming on that is, don't feel like all of your efforts have gone in vain, but also don't go overboard. Don't overdo it for yourself and for her, because I think she is giving you a very clear message here. It's not the message you want, and I get it, but it'll come. If it's meant to come, it'll come. And if not, also just reconsider, like, should I be putting this much effort in? Or should I just move on to find someone else that might be, I don't want to say a better friend, but a friend that's a match on the vulnerability and the deep sharing that you want to have, because she just may not be that person for you. Okay, let's move on to the next question. We're coming down to the hour here. How do I protect my boundaries in toxic situations and relationships? What's coming through is, I think, defining the word toxic first. And I don't mean that it has to be like this, like, judgment about like toxicity, because people are always going to play out something for us that we've asked them to do. Yes, I know. It's hard for me sometimes too, especially when people treat me poorly. I'm like, why would I ask them to treat me that way? Why would I ask them to make me feel that way? And there is always something deeper there. Sometimes it's that you need to use your discernment and say, yeah, no, and that's the boundary. I am not going to allow you to continue with that tonality or the words or the energy. And then you really are having to protect your boundaries simply by saying, this is not something that I want. When you say this, or when you have this tonality, I wish you to stop. And if you can give them an example of what would be helpful, that'll really help them, because they may not know where they're coming from, like with the intensity. And so it may not actually be toxic, is what I'm trying to say. It may feel toxic. Oftentimes it feels toxic, but it may be that, that you really are supposed to use your voice to say, like, that's not in my vibration. That's not where I want to be with this relationship. That's not what I want to have. And I'm not going to allow that. And what that means is that I'm either going to give you a warning, or I'm going to simply walk away. And whether that walk away is temporary or it's permanent, that's all really for you to reflect on. Did I get the lesson? Did I really get what I called in before I walk, or before I explode back, or before I have my own emotional reaction, which is okay. And so I like the question, and I know where you're coming from on protecting your boundaries. I just want you to really feel into the toxicity part of it and say, does it have to be toxic? Or can it be that this is just like the best lesson that I've called in, so that I can reduce it? Because as you know, when you change that energy within you, another example that's coming is, oftentimes children on the playground, there's bullies. And it's just innately that a lot of times children want to just kind of cower and just like, please don't do this to me anymore, right? And you would say, gosh, that's so toxic. And it is toxic. But when that little person really gets empowered, hopefully they can have it happen on their own. But oftentimes it's an adult, or it's another friend, or it's someone that comes in and helps empower them and helps them shift their energy within, that just goes, whew, yeah, no, I am not that. I'm not, whatever the bully's trying to say that breaks them down. And so I don't know, it's an example that comes to mind because it happens when we're little. It probably happened, if you're having a lot of toxic relationships as an adult, it may be that there's something back there from your childhood that is causing this. And I'm not saying that you're cowering. You may be, but I'm not necessarily trying to say that you are. What I'm saying is it's the energy of how that feels inside, that ooh. And so maybe it's not about protecting as much as it is about, right, opening it and walking into it and walking through it, as opposed to try to walk around it, or call it this and then have it be bad. And again, I'm not trying to discount, because it probably is something that feels very bad. And so I'm acknowledging that. I'm just saying, like, we're reframing this in a different way, to open to it and to walk through it. And then eventually it has nothing to do with protecting yourself, because you don't even give off that energy that someone can even do that to you. They can even be toxic to you, and you're just walking along, right? And you're finding new people that can create a totally different energy with you, following your love and your light and your brightness. All right. I'd love to hear what you have to say on that, whether it was your question or not. I always love to know. Okay, let's go on to the next question. My wife and I have been divorced officially about 3 months ago. I have had many realizations about my part in our marriage dissolving. I've spoken to her about some of it, but I'm not sure how much I should involve her at this point. What's healthy for our relationship/friendship moving forward? First of all, I love to hear the question, especially coming from the masculine. And really, it feels that your deep reflection is so beautiful and so bright, and that you're really getting the lessons out of this journey. And it's a bit of a tricky one. I would rather have more details, but I'm going to answer it again, maybe more for the collective, and hopefully for you very specifically, that it's your work. It's your work to do. And so I don't get the feeling that you need to involve her a lot in these conversations right now, that you do your own inner work. Now, if there's something that you feel like you want to say, like, I want to ask for forgiveness about something, then yeah, that could be, but I'm still getting like, maybe you write it down and you sleep on it. Maybe you sleep on it for 3 nights. Maybe you say, is this something that I really need to have a conversation with her about? And you have it by your bedside and you ask that question just as you fall asleep. And then the next morning, is it a yes or is it a no? And you can, do it 3 days in a row. And if it's 2 days, yes, then it's a yes. I just think sometimes we use our spiritual growth, bear with me, it might not be the right words. We use our spiritual growth as a way, we use our heartbreak as a way to reach out to someone when we really need to let them do their work and we really need to just be in our own. So gauge in on that. It's what I'm feeling for you specifically right now, is that it might not be the right time, because I bet you she's doing her own journey. And it might not be at the light speed you're doing it. She might not be awakening at the same level that you are. She may not be getting her own lessons at the same level it sounds like you may be right now. So there may be a level of disappointment even that can come if you go to her to talk to her about things and then you realize, oh, well, like, we're just totally on the wrong. If you were on the same page, you'd still be married. If you were meant to be together, you would have worked it out in the relationship together. So it feels like for you specifically, this is about time. That maybe like in 5 years, maybe in 2 years, maybe you can have that fun, conversation over a sip of something, where you kind of lay it all out and you talk about what you learned. But oftentimes when you're deep in the learning, it's not helpful to bring in, a spouse that you've recently divorced. And I know and I feel you're longing to build that friendship or to keep the friendship or to, not completely lose the relationship. But there's too many hooks. There's too many things you're still figuring out. And you need to figure that all out first so that you can ground in your energy and not swirl in theirs, because you can come to the conversation thinking, oh, okay, I'm really clear, I'm going to talk about this and I'm going to ask for forgiveness about that, and then it could just spiral into like a totally different direction because they are in a totally different place. So with caution, not out of concern and not out of fear, of course, just do your work and stay within you and not allow that desire to like call the person. I mean, this happens in breakups all the time, right? Like, oh, I have this big idea. It's just like, no, it's an excuse. It's an excuse to call the person. It's an excuse to make a connection that's not healthy right now. Yeah. Hopefully that's helpful. I know it's so hard. Sometimes these situations can be so sticky, but I feel your energy and I feel that you really are wanting to do the work yourself, and doing it on your own is also really going to help you in the next relationship if you're interested in moving into another relationship, because then you're going to be clean and clear and and you're really going to have done the work. So bravo. All right, we've got time just for one more here, and then any other questions we'll have to push into the next week. And anyone on live, please jump in if you've got a burning question coming. People talk about their inner child and doing the work. I'm not sure I totally get what they're talking about. Is it important? I'll tell you a little personal story that many years ago I sat with, I don't remember what her modality was, but I didn't realize that she was all about inner child work. And she just kept telling me about my inner child. And I was like, stop, like I was so not ready for it. I so did not want to go to that. And the actual definition of inner child work, I don't know. But what I do know is that it's all about going back to the programs and the belief systems and all of the ways that we started to identify with who we are as a person in this lifetime on this planet. And that inner child work is some of the most important work that you will ever do, is to get in there and to understand, because it's in your subconscious. It's not conscious. You have an identity that's been built, and it's not that your identity is bad. Like, let's not say that, but we want to facilitate the inner child from the, whether you're a man or a woman, the cheerleader perspective, not from the inner critic perspective. And a lot of times those programs that are in there from childhood that we don't even know exist are the ones that are either holding us back or helping us to not be happy or destroying our personal relationships with ourselves or with others. And so while it sounds, well, I thought it sounded juvenile way back then. Man, the power of that inner work is so wonderful. And, maybe there's another way we can frame it. If you also are having like a little resistance, you're asking the question. So I don't think you're having resistance. I think you're curious. You want to know, like, what is it and how can it help me? And I'm telling you, like, it can help you. It can really, really help you. It was coming, just flew out. It's like interesting how things come in and then they go. So yeah, the inner child is so magical. We want to always get back to our magical child, that innocence that we had when we were a child, because that is that childlike curiosity that moves mountains and drives us to do things that in some ways make no sense. And sometimes that things fall apart as a result. And other times things get catapulted because we did something that came from the magic within ourselves. And so, yeah, when we think back to that innocence of what we had coming in and the curiosity of, spending whatever 2 minutes looking at a leaf and thinking that it was really great when we were 3, I'm not saying you have to go out and stare at a leaf for 3 minutes or 2 minutes. I'm just saying that we have to get back to that innocence and that place within us it's fun and it's all about curiosity and about wanting to do things that bring adventure to our lives. And what happens is we get so programmed and we get so stuck in where we think we need to be that we're not actually exploring all the unlimited possibilities that are actually available to us. So on that note, I think what we'll do is we'll close up because we're just at the end of the hour. But each week, I'm so happy to have you here. Thank you for joining me live. Thank you for submitting your questions. I know pre-submitting them sometimes is safer, and I love that. But I also love to have you here on live with me or on replay. Write in the questions. I'm happy to follow up in the next week's session. I'll answer them. And if you want more support, you want to go deeper, you can always go to bethbell.me, sign up for a session, and we can go deeper into whatever it is that's on your mind and deeply embedded in your heart. So until next week, I am wishing you so much bliss and love on the journey. Namaste.